Hi, it's Tom from Leicester Fan TV. What did you think of the game? Now it's my turn.
Hi, Tom from Leicester Fan TV here. Yeah, back from the game, got in about half an hour ago. Bit of traffic on the way home tonight, so yeah, not a great trip back down to Worcestershire, but was on the way at the ground. I put in the chat to me, Phil, Jamie, and the rest of the team. I'm going to go live tonight. I'm going to do a live post-match review. Obviously, I'll get your comments in of your thoughts if I'll go through the game, and then obviously we'll talk about the major points of what happened in the game. Obviously, team news come out, and I think we're all sitting there going, okay, not what we were quite expecting. After the performance, obviously, Slajic in goal, Justin, Faz, Vestergaard, Christian. I think we all thought the new right back would have been starting today, but obviously, apparently his insurance wasn't ready in time and paperwork weren't done. Well done, Leicester, as usual. Winks, Samari, El Canoose, Jordan Ayew came back into the team, and Jamie Vardy and Mavididi. I mean, after the other night, I think Buonanotte probably feels a bit hard done by they're not keeping his place, but you sort of can understand they're trying to protect JJ against a team with the likes of Iwobi in it, who was going to attack JJ, and they had to give him some cover. Buonanotte doesn't offer that kind of cover at the back. So as that team new comes out, I think we're all sitting there thinking, okay, what do we do? How are we going to do? And for the first 10, 15 minutes, we did okay. We created a few chances, scramble in the box. Ayew gets a shot away, hits the goalkeeper. Vardy has a header. Ball by Vardy towards the back post. Timmy Castagne did Leicester a favour. Should have scored an own goal for us, but obviously goalie gets in the way. And yeah, typical Leicester then, really. It was backs against the walls, really, after that first 15 minutes. We didn't really then get going, and we started to drop deeper and deeper, and Fulham then started playing very neat and tired little 1-2s. Iwobi was attacking Justin for fun. Robinson was coming down that right, getting left exposed on 2-on-1s again. JJ, bless him. 1-2s around the box, creating chances, hit the crossbar before half time. And you're just thinking, what are we got to do to get back in the game? Because the rest of the half was all Fulham. Half time, as the lads come back out, nothing. And then we see the same old problems, what we saw against Crystal Palace. We don't switch on. We get ourselves in a mess. And within 2 minutes of the restart, we're a goal down. A long ball to the back post, headed back across the goal, a flick on. And, Faz hasn't got a clue where Smith Rowe is. He runs in behind him, darts in front of him, and heads it into an empty net. And again, the atmosphere, the players' confidence absolutely dropped away straight away. And you could just tell, as soon as that goal went in, that was it. Game over. We did not look like creating chances in that second half. The only really chance we did create, and that was when Samari bombed into the box and went down, and some will say a penalty, some will say it'd be soft to give a pen. I'd say it'd be soft to give a pen because he lost control of the ball and went down under a challenge. He was never going to get on the end of the ball. He kicked it too far away. But we never caused Fulham any problems in that second half. It was so comfortable. And then once again, another ball switch from right to left. Christian's tucked inside to mark his man. Mavididi being lazy again at the back post, not tracking Jimmy Torre. Well, Torre at the back post, who volleys it back across the goal in the net. And game was over, really. That's probably the talk about of the game, because at that point you're thinking, what do you do? The talking points being now is obviously the substitutions from Ruud van Nistelrooy. We're losing a game, and he then takes off, in most people's eyes, our biggest threat on the park in El Canoose, and brings Jordan Ayew into a 10, as he said, to give Vardy some support. I mean, we're talking about Jordan Ayew, who's 33, 34, at that point, come into the middle of the park and get us back into the game. You needed some young, fresh legs in there. For me, Ayew should have gone off. Halkanu should have been carried on what he was doing, and Buonanotte should have come in and been the 10. What he's a good player at doing, number 10. You know, Mavadidi should have come off as well, and McAtee should have gone onto the right. You could have put Elkanous onto the left and uh, Buonanotte into the middle of the park as that number 10. But no, the subs then got. I've never heard a crowd turn on a manager so quickly with the substitutions. Here, 70% of the stadium singing to Ruud van Nistelrooy, you don't know what you're doing. And then obviously the chance of sack the board, Rudkin out, and people say it was a small minority. I've never heard the ground singing sack the board that loudly in that ground before. Even the dark days when we were getting relegated to League One, there wasn't that kind of chant. It was accepted, but because of how far this club has progressed and how far the club has gone downhill in the last few years, the fans are really concerned, and you could tell it by the volume of people singing to sack the board. And obviously, you're going to get a few around you saying, "Oh, shut up, he's not doing any favours," but something has to change. You know, we brought in Van Nistelrooy. He had an impact on 2 games and it's disappeared. As I said in my post-match review before, the performance levels have been better by Ruud van Nistelrooy compared to Cooper. There's a big difference in how we perform and how we transition through the pitch. The biggest problem is what I can see the similar between Van Nistelrooy and Steve Cooper is this: the quality of the squad is just not good enough. And until you start strengthening that team, you're not got any foothold of staying in the Premier League, in my view. When you're watching the likes of Ipswich Town spending 24 million on a winger from Aston Villa, and when you're looking at Crystal Palace signing a young, exciting talent who's cost them a bit of money from Millwall, and we're spending 3 million because the max amount of money we've got is about 12 to 14, having to recall Tom Cannon, not to even be able to put him on the bench today, but because we're going to have to sell him to get some money in, when, if we're all being honest, we're going to get relegated. Why aren't we keeping players like Tom Cannon? Because he's proven in the Championship what he can do, and he could be an asset to the club next year in the Championship, because we don't know embargoes we're going to be put under when we get back to the Football League, because they're rubbing their hands together to slap some kind of fine and points deduction on us. For some reason, someone's put it up there, and I sort of agree what they said. Wayne's put it in there, and we've gone back 10 years. I sort of agree with that. Vishay would never, God rest his soul, let this football club got into the mess it is now, with, you know, the financial strains that are being put on us. And yes, some will say due to the fact of COVID and the lack of money coming into the club, I accept that, as there is some of that talk. But then also the responsibility of the board, top, the director of football, Susan Wheeland, Andrew Neville, all of these people have responsibility for where the money's been spent and what we're doing with it. When we're letting managers spend 25 million on Oliver Skip, 25 million on a player who can't get in the Tottenham team barely, when we're spending 14, 15 million on a centre-half that's never played Premier League football and a young lad in Okole. Now, that's not saying he won't come good, but like I said the other night, Sir Alex Ferguson said these players take 6 to 8 months to settle when they come from abroad because they don't know this league. Okole looks out to the depth at the moment. We've seen that in games this season. You know, the only bright prospect who's come in on this is obviously Buonanotte, who's on loan because he knows the league. As I said, there's a point. He's done a year in the league. He knows this league. And Elkanous, who, let's be honest, on his debut against Everton, we were all like, what the hell have we got here? But fair play to the young man. He's probably only one in the last few weeks who comes out every game with credit because he rolls his sleeves up. He fights for every cause. And he's the only one who seems to really give a shit, if I'm honest, on the performance levels from the weekend. That's quite scary. But a young man like that is putting all the weight on his shoulders to try and push his team forward. To hear the toxic atmosphere in the ground, wow. I've never heard the ground that toxic in a long, long time. But then questions have to be asked. You know, like I say, get your comments in. That was my review done, so I want to know your opinion. Where has it gone so dramatically wrong? As I said on BBC Radio Leicester earlier, all that time, all that money, you know, spent to get back into the Premier League after one season in the Championship, all that effort by Enzo Maresca, reconnecting the players and the fans, that's gone. Enzo did all that hard work from the disjointed fans and players to bring them as one with the way he got the players to come to the crowd, the way he took the players to engage with the Leicester fans. It's gone. That's all gone now with the booing and the jeering of the players. You know, the way Enzo built something good, even though it was frustrating at time. I understand that by Leicester fans to watch, and some didn't like it. But you're never going to please everyone with the style of football, because that is Pep's way, and that's the way football has gone. Do I agree with it? No. I think football should be played the way different managers want to play it. It shouldn't all be ticky-tacky and passy-roundy. That is a way for systems, and that's the way sadly football's gone in some of the ways, but there should be other options to be able to play football the different way. Well, that's my little rant there anyway, because as you can imagine, I think I'm saying you're quite frustrated with what I've seen. Ash says, it's not good enough, Tom. The same mistakes keep being made week in, week out. Players not learning. Completely agree. But my point of view, as I said before, you can't blame Van Nistelrooy. You can't blame Cooper for the mistakes keep happening. You can blame the players being picked at the same time, completely. But then again, as I said before, we have such a weak squad. James Justin has to play every week because of Ricardo injury. A player we signed still can play because the paperwork problem was any good. And, you know, it's cost us. Ash again says the relationship between Rude and the fans is going to get toxic so quickly. Yep. Rude mentioned it after in his pre-split. He understood the frustration, and he knew why the fans are frustrated about what's going on. You know, he's not daft. During the that one, Ricking out. Okay. Guy says embarrassing. It was embarrassing. I completely agree. So you guys are looking forward to Championship 6? Sadly not, mate, because with the Football League rubbing their hands together, they can't wait for us to drop back down into the Football League to put some kind of point deductions or a transfer embargo on us and not let us near any signing. So quite scary, to be honest. And sadly, I think most real Leicester fans be realistic to say that if we go back to the Championship, we could be there for a long, long time and could drop back through the leagues again, back to League One if we're not careful. Evening, lad. Where do we start? Well, yeah, exactly, mate. Done. I'm done with this Team Club. Richard said, get behind Ruud van Nistelrooy and the board. It's the board's fault and the players found Ruud fault, not Ruud. I agree with you. I don't blame Ruud. I'm still not convinced Ruud van Nistelrooy is the problem now. I think if we look at it, this squad of players is not good enough. And like you say, if you keep picking players week in, week out, because you've got no other option, what you meant to do. Ridiculous system, Ayew and a 30-year-old Vardy, a lazy Mavdi as a front three. Completely agree with you. Vardy, again, is the best we got out of a bunch of bad strikers, you know, in this year. And that's not against Vardy. When I say bad strikers, I mean he's 38 and you rely on him to score the goals to keep you in the Premier League. It was never going to happen. Daka, not good enough. And the less we said about Edwards, the better, because that was another joke signing by the football club. Getting worse. Rude and Rudkin out. We disagree since the last bloke. Even shocking. Yeah. We're in bridge football. Don't make nothing count. Completely gay. Matty says we'll never threaten at all. Fulham were in circles. Yeah, well they were. They were in control from after the 15-minute mark. They took grip of the game and ran at us. It seemed like Fulham were playing with us, letting us have the first 10 minutes and went, right, we're going to go. Yeah. Jay, matters not which formula or starts then we put up. Again, the squad is just not good enough for the Premier League. Please don't go back, go to the Championship. Oh, mate. We have to lead to the Championship podcast again. Don't get any worse playing. Don't get why we're not playing 5-3-2. Again, it's a change system. This isn't working. I agree with you. That for some reason, Ruud van Nistelrooy doesn't seem to want to change the system because he thinks the players we've got can only play one way. Well, that's quite concerning that a manager can't come in and change the shape. Like, I can guarantee you now, if Sean Dice came in, he'd probably go 4-5-1, pack the defence and midfield, use his two wingers, quick wingers, and attacking players on those wings to get forward like he did at Burnley and like he did at Everton. And he would change the system and change the shape and formations. Players probably wouldn't like it because you wouldn't be playing ball much, but he would put a system in place that we were not conceding goals as we are. Disgracing the players on the board today. Completely agree. Everyone let the club down today. Rude subs on are so confusing. Bale, it was, yeah, El Khanous, by far the biggest threat on the pitch. The councillor, good evening, sir. Very toxic game today. Bad vibes with the club presently. Well, again, like you say, this has been coming now, and I know for a fact from speaking to people and other people that John Ruckins is fuming with the chants what have been sang at the games in the last few weeks. He's really, really annoyed with those chants. But what does he expect? The fans trust the board to make the right decisions, to give us the best hope of staying in the Premier League this season. Don't get me wrong, we knew it was going to be a hard season, but we expect a little bit more fight and a little bit more guts from the playing side of it. And also, you're expecting some signings to come in the booster. Basically, from my point looking in, we've signed off everyone's rejects. We've signed Palace's reject in Ayew. We've signed for £3 million. We've signed another reject on loan for them because they knew he wasn't good enough. Premiership clubs don't just give you players for the fun of it. They know they're not good enough for the Premier League anymore and they're on the way out. But Bobby Reid, Fulham, again, couldn't get a new contract sent into us. They're laughing because they knew he wasn't going to be good enough to play in the Premier League. Leicester till I die. Good evening, sir. You're right. Looking forward, mate. Whatever division Leicester in, I will be there. Everyone knows me. Hardcore. Back to the bitter end. I've seen enough in League One. God, the days of Premiership and then back down under Mickey Adams and all those tops and tails, administration and all that. I'll still follow this club wherever we are. And if we went down league after league, I'd still be there behind the boys. It's one of those things, what we do. But yeah, be interesting next season back there because at the moment in time, I don't see this ship turning round and heading foot up the table. We're down, prepare for the Champions like Southampton. Completely agree. At this rate, you can't see how we turn it round, and you can't see where the points are coming. You know, with the next second fixture of Tottenham away, Everton away, where you have to look at as a game where you've got to go and win at Everton. You can't see how. I mean, we're talking against a Tottenham team have only won one game in 7. I think it was reading earlier, and they must be licking their lips. Leicester coming to town, and they've got Everton tomorrow. They're going to want to try and push on a bit of run now, Tottenham. Especially with they're already winning in the League Cup first leg 1-0 against Liverpool. Obviously, then we got Man United in the Cup on a Friday night. Thanks to that. Awesome. Brilliant to the fans as usual. All these little clubs with smaller gates, smaller teams that need more money than Man United and Leicester, and you put us on the telly because of Van Nistelrooy going back to Old Trafford. Quality pick that was. Great cheers on a Friday night. Ryan says, why on earth are the club accepting selling Cannon when he needed for the Champions season? My point earlier made, completely agree with that. We spent 35 million spent on Skip and the Italian guy. Well, Leicester die. Rude is actually any better than Cooper. I think as a manager and how he trying to do things, yes, because I can see the players are buying into what he's doing. Is it working so far? Not as good as it should have done. Have the performance levels improved? Most definitely, considering what I'd seen at the beginning of the season. But unless you're picking points up, and I've said that for a long time, the performances are growing. Hopefully, this would turn the corner. The problem is now we're now 7 games in and we're not turning on the corner, that the performances are getting better until today, especially. First half against Palace, we dominated the game. We were a lot better. But once again, as soon as the first goal goes in against us, we crumble too easy. Points are what matters now, and for some reason we don't seem to be able to put these performances, turning the performances to points. It's Steve Wells, scouting expert, the most definitely. Oh mate, we were talking about this earlier that our scouting network has completely disappeared off the park. Sean Dyche will save us. Look, now in the chat earlier, or 2 of the chats, I actually put a picture in this and put again. I put it on my Twitter page. What's having an opinion now? If you were to sack Rui Van Nistelrooy, would you bring in Sean Dyche? Now, this is the bloke who kept Everton up 4 years or so, or 2.5 years, 3 years. Probably would have kept them up this year as well. I had no fear that he would have gone down. Had a good track record at Burnley for 3-4 years of keeping them in the Premier League. There's a question of, would you have Sean Dyche if the club decided to part company? And Phil and Jamie, I know their opinion is very much how many more games can you let a team keep losing before you have to make a change? No. Yes, we beat QPR, but let's be honest, it was a QPR had made changes and we had a full-strength team out. We should be beating QPR. Yeah, Jamie and Phil very much like, how long do you give Rui Van Nistelrooy before you have to make a change? 7 defeats in a row, 2 home games without goals against Palace tells you your own story. Exactly. Callum says, RVN needs to go, not good enough. The results are saying that, aren't they? The performances, you say, are better than what we were seeing in the Cooper, but the results are not improving. things went wrong when Steve Walsh went to Everton. Scouting was affected. Well, completely agree with you because we've never really replaced any gems. Unfortunately, I don't have the squad to play the rude way. Again, that could be the case. Haven't you seen Arsenal at Villa? Have you seen the Arsenal? Yes, I've seen most of the game. I didn't see the last few minutes with the VAR goal, so it was ruled off. So it says, has the new training ground a softened the players and new recruits? It's a brutal. Now, there's a rumour going around, and I did a few weeks ago, that apparently, and God rest his soul, Vishai passed away, Top was pushing for this training ground to be built, and Vishai did not want to build the training ground, apparently. He was very against the training ground being built. He didn't think it was worth it, or we were in a financial position to build a training ground of that size without having regular European football. So read that as you like. It's a rumour I've heard recently. It sounds quite interesting one, really. But yes, apparently we weren't financially ready to build that training ground at the time of them starting it. And, yes, the transfer money from Maguire and all that, but I suppose God himself, Vishal would have said, well, that money can go back into the playing squad. So interesting to know what that is exactly and if that was all true, because it's a massive shout if it was. Dorco running, what'd you say, Nick? We are running out of games. Gary, since Enzo left and picked just to get someone and got Steve Cooper in the end. Well, like you say, by the sounds of it, Potter was their number one target. Graham Potter then mucked us around for a couple of weeks. He was going to sign, then didn't sign, and yeah, it sounds like to me that Potter mucked us around and the club couldn't wait any longer for him to make a decision. So they pulled the contract away and went to Cooper instead. Should never have stepped to Cooper. See, I won't have that because I still believe the players did not believe in Steve Cooper. And I think Top could see the players didn't believe in Steve Cooper because you couldn't see any identity, any performance levels on there. There was no systems, no style of play. So I don't think I can sit here and say I will take Steve Cooper back, because I don't, because the players did not believe in him. And if players don't believe in the manager, then you've got nothing hope. I think this is down to the board, Tom. Agreed, Roos is new and his pressure for the squad, but so far poor. No manager would save. Yeah, well, no manager I don't think would save us. Agree with you on that. That's what I said earlier. I don't know if you think you play Cooper or Rude. I think both have been left with a very, very poor squad of players. Perfect counter-attacking football, no tiki-taka. Well, again, that's what Dyche would bring, wouldn't he? He would just set us up to counter-attack. If you look at Forest, saying that's not Forest, that's all they're doing. A carbon copy of Leicester City in the title winning season. Block everyone behind the ball, quick players forward. Use Gibbs White, use Alanga, use Hudson-Odoi, use Chris Wood. And it's working. Funny that. Football doesn't have to be about tiki-taki all the time. And thirdly, I think we're in a mindset of a world and generation that everything has to be like Pep Guardiola. Vardy playing full games every week needs to completely agree. For me, Vardy should never have played against QPR last weekend. He should have been on the bench, and Daka should have started that game, in my opinion. When can you realistically see the next win coming from, Tom? That's the $1 million question. I'm dreading Tottenham next week. It could be even more embarrassing if we don't try and put some kind of performance in. But the Everton game, to me, that becomes then another must-win game if you don't get anything for Tottenham. They're all must-wins now. That's why I look at it. They're all must-wins. If you want to stay in the Premier League, we've got to go on and win 6, 7, 8 games now in a row quite quickly to have any hope of staying up for me. So they're all must-wins. Everton, possibly, because I think they're as bad as us from what I'd seen. But again, they've got David Moyes back, who's going to organise them a couple of weeks' time when we play them. Be a lot more organised than they have been beforehand. Why on earth are the club committing to saying Cannon when we, read that one earlier. Scroll down here. Time for Top to break the bank and invest in players 3 or 4 minimum. Take the FFP hit next season. Well, this is something we were talking about as well in the chat. How far do you go of a risk and a gamble? Because it won't be the first time. If you look at it under the Rodgers season, we got relegated. The club took out X amount of loans against television rights so they could go and sign Harry Suter, Tete, and Victor Christensen. Do the club take that gamble again to get some money in to do it? I don't know. And I don't know if the bank would do it this time around because of the situation with, and I think banks probably looked at it and thought, well, there's every chance Leicester are going to stay up, so we'll do it. Obviously, had their parachute payments were against that. how many? It's very hard to say you do it. I think not signing Lookman was the start of the down. I think not signing was one. I think selling Kasper Schmeichel was the massive biggest downfall on this football club doing. You got rid of your best goalie with adding generations and left us with Danny Ward to try and save us. It was never going to happen. Time for a Vardy team meeting. Again, I don't know if that will even work this time round. I think last time there was a lot of spirit and the club were in a good position. That's the $1 million question. Time to sell the club. I don't think it is. I think Top's the right person, as in sense of he's a Conno we all want. I just think he's being poorly advised around him, with poor people deciding fates of contracts over stupid years for players who don't deserve those, players who don't deserve the money they're being paid. What's really ridiculous. I think I've said it for a long time, and in the chat, the When We Smiley podcast chat, we've got a lot of us agree the same thing. The board needs a freshen up. We need some younger generation in there trying to run this football club how it needs to be run, and with some fresh ideas. That's what I'd change. 5, 6 of the board members. Freshen it up to work with Top. He needs something different in there. Richard says, attitude, desire, hard yards and bottle gets you a long way in football. This bunch, well, that was part of my thing. I said we were gutless today. There was spineless. There was no desire. There was no hunger. There's no commitment at all to try and do what they need to do. I think Ori needs to scrap this style of football until we're safe or down. Just treat every game like a cup game with 90 minutes. We're decent 45, then it all tails off. 90 minutes effect. Well, yeah, exactly. And for me, go back to a 4-5-1, shore up the defence and use your wingers and your Buonanottis and your El Canuses to try and win your football matches. But you've got to be setting up better than this. And sadly, I think trying to keep the ball for a long period of time with a bunch of players we got just isn't working in the system. So maybe you've got to go to a bit of a more defensive, give teams the ball and have less possession. I would. That's my opinion. That's someone I've mentioned for a long, long time, who I think Nigel Pearson would be a very good director of football for this football club. He knows the league, he knows players, he knows what players' contracts are like, he knows how to deal with players and where they are and agents and all that. I think he'd be a very good person to work under Top, because he's got a lot of respect for Top. Be interesting one that would be. Scott says Rudkin and Whelan get rid of. I completely agree. Andrew Neville, another one who's been at the club a long, long time. There's people been at this club for many, many years, and for me, there's a lot of dead wood on that board now that needs to be shipped out. Fresh ideas. We need some fresh ideas onto the board of how to rebuild, because now we're going down. And if we go down, we're not going to just bounce straight back up like we did last time, because we are going to get smacked with points deductions and stuff and penalised for transfer embargoes. Cooper, 9 points from his first 8 games. Ruben Aston, 4 from his first 8 games. I completely agree with on that, Chris, and it's a good point. But as I said before, my biggest thing with that is Cooper had the whole of pre-season to work with the players. Ruben Van Nistelrooy's had the 8 weeks or 2 months he's been here to work with the players. He had no pre-season. He's trying to do this on the fly. He also has lost 3 of his best players, and not being able to play the players he wants to play. Matt Hermanson, Wilfred Ndidi got injured while he's here. He's obviously can't pick Ricardo and Abdul Fatoui. There's probably 4 players that walk into this team at the moment. So as much as I know what fans are saying about that, I also look on the other side. He has a full pre-season. Ruben Van Nistelrooy hasn't. A couple more minutes on this and I'm off. I need to chill out and switch off from this stuff. Dorco, poor defence means we have to pump it up. Long balls, counter-attack football. I agree, but you've got to have someone up the front to hold the ball up. You can't rely on Vardy. We saw that today. Fresh ideas. How about someone who isn't 38 that fresh? Are we talking about Mr. Vardy, boy, at this point? I agree. Oh, mate, I agree on that. Fresh ideas, as in we knew Vardy for a long time is going to come to retirement. So why have we not made a plan to find the player to go and replace him? Daka hasn't worked out. Edwards was never going to be the player we all think. Well, everyone thought he was coming in as a help out. Panic buy at the end of the season. Completely agree. We've had 5 years knowing this was going to be coming to the end of Vardy in those years, and we didn't once go and find the player we needed. Might have blue tinted glasses on, but we have chance in the last 7 games to win them. We haven't taken them. It's not all doom, but we need to shift shit, win it to kick on. Well, we do, mate. God knows how we do it. Couple more, and then going, but we knew this was get Dulco. He's not good enough. Completely, I would like to say Vardy's 38. What's he meant to do? I can't fault Vardy. Rich says 3-5-2 in go formation, legs around Vardy, not outnumbered by midfielders, and uses pressure to go to a 5 at the back. I completely agree. Help him out, because at the moment you're lumping it forward and expecting Vardy to do something with the ball high in the air, and it's not his game, is it? So why waste 22 million on Spurs reject instead of going for a striker? No, Vardy's coming out to the end. I'm going to finish on that one, because that is a very good question. Jamie, I don't know, probably be on tomorrow doing his famous aftermath show. I'm not sure if he's up in the mood for it. I think we're all quite annoyed at the moment with everything gone off, but hopefully he does come on. As always, thank you for joining me. Much appreciated. There's 472 you watching this. Absolutely brilliant for you all to come on and have you say. Thank you for letting me have a rant, because it's got out my system now. I say make sure you tune in tomorrow for the famous aftermath show, and keep it all Leicester Fan TV. Cheers.
The Leicester City machine is on the march again.
Leicester Fan TV presents a variety of content like fan discussions, match analysis, and engaging with Leicester fans worldwide. We want your views live, thanks to our sponsors, Everard's, Pucker Pies, Hologram, Take Me, Newbie & Co, and the Fox's Arms. For exclusive extra shows, behind the scenes, competitions and podcasts, subscribe to Leicester Fan TV today on Patreon.